TARDIS wheezed to a halt in the misty woods of 1980s Michigan, materializing with a groan that echoed like a dying engine. The doctor stepped out first, his sonic screwdriver already buzzing faintly in his hand, scanning the ramshackle cabin ahead. Clara followed, shivering in her modern coat against the chill autumn air. The swing creaked lazily on the porch, and from inside, frantic shouts spilled out Ash Williams, chainsaw arm gleaming under the dim light, waving that grotesque book like it was about to bite him. "Listen, Limey, this ain't no fairy tale bedtime story," Ash bellowed, his voice cracking with manic energy as he jabbed a finger at the doctor. "The Necronomicon Ex-Mortis Book of the Dead. One wrong word from this Sumerian shit show, and boom, Deadites everywhere. Possessed fuckers with teeth like chainsaws and a hard-on for ripping your soul out. Your fancy box brought us together for a reason. Help me burn this thing, or we're all boomstick chow." The doctor's eyes widened behind his glasses, a mix of fascination and alarm. Fascinating. Ancient Mesopotamian incantations, woven into human flesh. Clara, this could rewrite everything we know about interdimensional linguistics. But that energy signature, it's like the universe's worst hangover. Clara glanced nervously at the shed lurking in the shadows. "Doctor, maybe we should just leave. This bloke looks like he's one bad day from starring in his own horror flick." The doctor, ever the curious Time Lord, ignored Clara's wary glance and strode forward, sonic screwdriver whirring to life like a demented dentist's drill. "Hold still, Mr. Williams' fascinating artifact. If this is truly Sumerian, the vibrational harmonics could be key too." He trailed off as the sonic's green glow danced over the Necronomicon's fleshy cover, the ancient text pulsing faintly under the scan. Ash backed up a step, boomstick half raised. "Whoa, whoa, Sparkles. You don't point your magic wand at the boom book unless you want to wake up the neighborhood from hell." For a split second, nothing happened. The sonic beeped affirmatively, revealing a web of interdimensional runes that suggested a sealing incantation, something about reversing the polarity of the evil. But then, the air thickened. A low rumble shook the cabin floorboards, and from the pages, wisps of black smoke curled out like fingers. The book's eyes, wait, did it have eyes? Snapped open, and a guttural whisper echoed, "Kandarian demons." Rising, Clara grabbed the doctor's arm. "Brilliant plan, Doctor. Now it's mad at us." Ash pumped his shotgun. "Told you, Deadites incoming groovy." The shed door banged open on its own, shadows twisting unnaturally inside. Something was coming fast. The doctor, undeterred by the rising chaos, yanked the sonic from the book's vicinity and began chanting the incantation. It decoded a mishmash of ancient Sumerian gutturals and Gallifreyan flair. "Klaatu Barada Nick." Wait, no, that's from your Earth folklore. Hold on. "Verith Shulnak Polarity Reverso." He waved the screwdriver like a conductor's baton, the device's hum syncing with the runes glowing brighter on the Necronomicon's pages. Ash froze, shotgun cocked. "What the hell kind of voodoo is that, Doc? Sounds like you're gargling gravel." Clara edged toward the TARDIS door, eyes on the shed where the shadows were now writhing like possessed snakes. "Doctor, hurry. I think it's working. The smoke's pulling back." For a glorious moment, it did. The whispers faded, the black tendrils retracted into the book, and the cover slammed shut with a fleshy thwack. The doctor grinned triumphantly. There, sealed tighter than a Dalek's ego, no more Kandarian cocktail party. But one syllable was off just a fraction of a tone, and the book shuddered. A rift tore open in the air above it, spewing a single Deadite scout, a grotesque, one-eyed horror with claws like rusty hooks and a grin full of rot. It lunged straight for Clara, screeching, "Join us! In the woods!" Ash roared and fired a boomstick blast, shredding the thing's arm, but it was regenerating already. The doctor's eyes narrowed. "Regenerative ectoplasm, nasty. We need to contain this before it calls reinforcements." The cabin shook harder, the swing outside whipping wildly like it was alive. The doctor his heel, sonic screwdriver already pulsing with a high-pitched whine as he aimed it square at the flickering rift above the Necronomicon. No time for incantations, let's give this a proper Gallifreyan kick. He cranked the frequency dial to maximum, the device glowing hot in his grip, and unleashed a focused sonic blast. The air crackled with energy, the rift warping like a bad TV signal, the Deadite scout howling as it was sucked halfway back through the tear. Clara ducked behind Ash, who was pumping another shell into his boomstick. "Doctor, it's working. The thing's shrinking." Ash smirked grimly. "Yeah, but your toy's smoking like a bad cigar, Chief." The rift snapped shut with a thunderous pop, the Deadite vanishing in a puff of acrid smoke, leaving only echoes of its screech. The cabin fell eerily quiet, the swing outside slowing to a creak, but the sonic overloaded in a shower of sparks, the tip melting into a useless stub. "Oh, brilliant," the doctor muttered, tossing the fried device aside. "That's going to need a full rebuild. No more scans, no portals back to basics." Worse, the blast's feedback wave rattled the Necronomicon, causing a page to flip open on its own. Faint, glowing symbols etched into the floorboards beneath it, a lingering curse. The shed door hung ajar, and now the distant laughter echoed from the woods. More Deadites, or just the wind playing tricks. Clara picked up the book gingerly with a nearby rag. "We can't leave this here. What's the plan now, Doctor, without your magic wand?" The doctor herded everyone toward the TARDIS, the blue box's doors creaking open invitingly amid the tense silence. "Right, no sonic, no book handling time for reinforcements. Clara, keep that rag-wrapped abomination at arm's length. Ash, ever seen a phone booth that travels through time?" He dashed to the console, flipping levers and yanking wires with frantic precision, his fingers dancing over the controls like a mad pianist. "Come on, old girl, patch me through to River. No, too feisty for Deadites. Jack, always up for a party. Or perhaps Sarah Jane practical. No nonsense." The central column hummed to life, lights flickering as a temporal signal pulsed out into the vortex. Static crackled from the view screen, and a voice boomed back familiar, but off. "Doctor, that you old goat. This better be good. I'm in the middle of a Dalek siege. In 22nd century Skaro, it was not a companion. It was the master, his arch-nemesis, grinning maniacally from the screen, his goatee sharper than ever. Heard you stirring up ancient evils. Necronomicon, eh? Sounds deliciously chaotic. Shall I pop over and help?" Clara's eyes widened. "Doctor, that's not backup, that's a bloody supervillain." Ash leveled his boomstick at the screen. "Great, now we've got a limey and a psycho. Shop's open for business." The TARDIS shuddered as the master's ship began to materialize nearby, but the woods erupted with Deadite howls drawn by the temporal disturbance. The curse on the floorboards glowed brighter. The book's influence was spreading, vines of shadow creeping toward the doors. The doctor hesitated, fingers hovering over the console's abort switch, but the Deadite howls closing in forced his hand. "Fine, truce for now, master, but if you so much as smirk at my friends, I'll feed you to the Vortex myself." The TARDIS doors swung wide as the master's sleek black ship dematerialized with a sinister wheeze, depositing him on the porch in a swirl of smoke. He was all velvet coat and wicked grin, laser screwdriver at the ready. Oh, Doctor, always the hero. Deadites, primitive, but I do love a good possession party. Ash eyed him suspiciously, chainsaw revving. Another freak show. Great. Just what we needed, evil twins. Clara clutched the rap book tighter, whispering, "This is a terrible idea." The group burst out as the first wave hit. A horde of twisted Deadites, former cabin folk, now with glowing eyes and jagged teeth swarming from the woods. Claws slashing at the air. The master laughed maniacally, zapping one with a burst from his screwdriver that made it explode in green ichor. Child's play. The doctor improvised with a jury-rigged gadget from the console, blasting another back to dust. Ash's boomstick thundered, chainsaw whirring through limbs, while Clara dodged and weaved, using the book's glow to repel a lunging fiend. For a heady minute, it was a symphony of chaos, Time Lords, and Deadite gore flying. The master's precision saved Ash from a sneak attack, and the doctor's quick thinking sealed a possessed tree before it could uproot. But midway through the melee, the master sidled up to the doctor, eyes gleaming. This book's power. Imagine it, doctor. We could rule dimensions. He lunged not for a Deadite, but for the Necronomicon in Clara's arms, his betrayal sparking as a fresh Deadite wave surged, empowered by the distraction. Clara screamed as shadowy tendrils lashed out, the cabin's curse amplifying. The master's ship hummed threateningly, nearby ally or new enemy. Ash, never one for subtle diplomacy, spotted the master's lunge and didn't hesitate. His chainsaw arm roared to life with a guttural buzz, revving like a demon on steroids. Nobody touches the boom book on my watch, you fancy pants prick. He swung low, the whirring blade catching the master mid-stride and shearing through his legs in a spray of sparks and theatrical blood. Time Lord regeneration, after all. The master tumbled to the dirt, howling in rage more than pain, his lower half already bubbling with regenerative energy. You primitive chainsaw-wielding buffoon! The master snarled, his eyes flashing crimson as he propped himself up on elbows. For that you'll wish for Deadites. True to form, he slammed his laser screwdriver into the ground, channeling a burst of Artron energy that ripped open a secondary rift, not to the Necronomicon's hell, but to his own twisted domain. Cyber-converted horror spilled out. Half Deadite, half Cyberman abominations, clanking and screeching with upgraded claws and delete, possess, upgrade, vocoders. The horde swelled, turning the woods into a battlefield of clashing evils, original Deadites clawing at the new metallic interlopers. The doctor dodged a swipe from a rusty Deadite while blasting another with a scavenged boomstick shell. Ash, brilliant improvisation, terrible timing. Clara, get that book to the TARDIS now. Clara bolted. Book clutched like a football, but a cyber Deadite lumbered after her, its chest unit whirring ominously. Ash reloaded, grinning through the chaos. Groovy mess we got here. The cabin's porch swing snapped free, flying like a possessed battering ram toward the group. Alliances shattered, horrors multiplied, survival mode engaged. The doctor, spotting Clara's desperate dash toward the TARDIS, with the cyber Deadites hot on her heels, grabbed a spare part from the console, a makeshift sonic emitter cobbled from Ash's discarded boomstick shell and some TARDIS wiring. No time for finesse remote scoop, engage. He pointed the jury-rigged device at the battlefield, its whine cutting through the chaos like a faulty siren. The TARDIS hummed in response. Doors flaring open wider as a tractor beam of temporal energy lashed out, yanking the group inward one by one. Clara tumbled inside first, book slamming shut behind her on the grating. Ash followed in a slide of gore and bravado, chainsaw arms scraping sparks. The doctor dove for cover as the beam swept toward the writhing master, who was regenerating his legs with a furious growl, cyber Deadites clanking in pursuit. But the fried sonic's glitch warped the beam, flickering erratically. It snagged Ash and Clara clean, but the doctor got yanked halfway, his coat caught on a porch beam. Worse, the master slipped the lock, his ship dematerializing with a mocking cackle as the beam singed his coat but left him behind. And in the scramble, one cyber Deadite hitched onto Ash's boot, its claw digging in like a demonic hitchhiker. The TARDIS doors slammed shut mid-pull, dematerializing with a wheezing lurch, but the doctor was still dangling outside, the cabin blurring into vortex swirls. With the TARDIS hurtling through the time vortex, alarms blaring like a cosmic tantrum, Ash didn't waste a beat. Eat lead, you rusty zombie. He hoisted his boomstick one-handed, the barrel mere inches from the cyber Deadite clawing up his leg, and unloaded a deafening shotgun blast. The hybrid abomination exploded in a shower of oily ichor and shattered circuits, chunks splattering across the console room, some hitting the central column, others oozing into the gratings. Clara, grimacing, dashed to a nearby storage unit, shoving the rag-wrapped Necronomicon into a reinforced containment field generator, TARDIS tech for really bad ideas. It sealed with a satisfying clunk, the book's glow dimming behind the force field. Got it locked down for now. Ash, that was disgusting. Ash pumped the shotgun, grinning through the grime. Hail to the king, baby. One less freak. But the splatter was not just mess, it was alive. Black veins of Deadite possession snaked from the ichor stains, creeping along the floor toward the console. The TARDIS groaned, lights flickering as the evil latched onto a panel, whispering corrupted coordinates that started pulling the ship off course. Warning, temporal contamination detected. The ship's voice intoned, glitching into a demonic echo. Doctor, join. Clara's eyes widened at the view screen, still showing the doctor fending off Deadites back at the cabin, now cornered by a regenerating master lurking in the shadows. We have to go back for him, but this stuff's turning the TARDIS into a haunted house. Clara, hands trembling but resolute, slammed her palms on the TARDIS console, bypassing safety protocols with a flurry of switches and levers she'd only half remembered from the doctor's frantic lessons. Come on, you beautiful beast, take us back. Ignore the gunk. We've got a Time Lord to save. The central column pulsed erratically, the ship shuddering as it punched through the vortex toward 1980s Michigan. Ash braced against a coral strut, chainsaw at the ready. This better not dump us in the middle of a Deadite family reunion. The TARDIS materialized with a bone-jarring thud, not gracefully on the cabin porch, but crashing sideways into the shed, splintering wood and sending tools flying like shrapnel. The impact jarred the infection loose. Ichor splattered further, tendrils now snaking up the walls, whispering temptations that made the console lights strobe in demonic patterns. Destination compromised. The ship's voice warbled, half-corrupted. Welcome to hell. Outside, chaos reigned. The doctor, disheveled and cornered by a swarm of Deadites, spotted the blue box's awkward arrival and shouted, "Clara! About time, watch the shed. It's got a trapdoor to who knows where." The master, fully regenerated and smirking from the tree line, sent a volley of cyber Deadites charging the wreck. Ash kicked open the doors, blasting the nearest hybrid. Round 2, suckers. But the malfunction bit hard. The TARDIS's stabilizers failed, the ship tilting precariously, one door wedged open to the Deadite horde. Infection crept toward the book's containment, and a shadowy figure-possessed shed-dweller emerged from the debris, eyes glowing with otherworldly hunger. As the TARDIS listed dangerously like a drunk at last call, Clara and Ash threw their weight against the wedged door, forming a human barricade amid the screeching swarm. "Push, Ash, don't let the buggers in," Clara grunted, shoving back a clawing Deadite hand. Ash's chainsaw arm whirred in his other hand, slicing at probing limbs. "This door's stickier than Deadite gum." The doctor, dodging a cyber Deadite stomp, sprinted across the splintered porch, leaping over the squeaky swing, now twisted into a mocking noose, and dove through the gap. Brilliant teamwork now, all hands to the console. He scrambled up the tilting grating, slamming a lever to seal the doors, just as a horde of horrors slammed into them, the impact shaking the ship like a maraca. For a split second, relief group reunited, book contained barely, infection contained to the edges. But the overload from the extra weight and the swarm's pounding sent the TARDIS sliding further into the shed's ruins. With a groan of ancient wood, the floor gave way beneath them. The trapdoor pit yawned open, a bottomless maw reeking of sulfur and forgotten evil. The ship teetered on the edge, half in the pit, consoles sparking as gravity pulled. From the depths, something ancient stirred, a colossal, tentacled entity the Necronomicon its source. Or worse. Reaching up with writhing appendages, brushing the TARDIS hull, the Master cackled from afar, his ship hovering mockingly. Overbalanced Doctor, need a hand. The infection inside pulsed stronger, sinking with the pit's aura, the central column flickering with corrupted symbols. The Doctor, with the TARDIS groaning on the brink and tentacles slithering ever closer, spotted the Master's hovering ship and bellowed into the comms. Master, Shrew's extension tow us out, and I'll owe you one TARDIS favor. No tricks, or I'll reverse the polarity of your entire causality. The Master tilted his head, a sly grin splitting his face as his ship swooped in, tractor beam latching onto the blue box with a metallic clang. A favor from you, priceless. Pull 'em up, lads. The TARDIS lifted free of the pit, the colossal entity below roaring in frustration as its appendages flailed at empty air. The ship stabilized mid-air, infection tendrils retracting slightly from the sudden jolt. Ash pumped his fist. Score one for the bad guy with style. Clara exhaled, clutching the console. Doctor, what kind of favor? He can't be trusted. The Doctor grimaced. Nothing catastrophic, just a temporal nudge. But yes, risky as a Dalek tea party. True to the risk, as the Master's beam secured them. His ship hitched docking clamps, engaging with a sinister thunk, bridging the two vessels like conjoined twins. The Master's voice purred over the speakers, just ensuring my payment, old friend. Now, about that book. A side hatch irised open, and cyber Deadite minions poured through, clanking toward the containment field. The infection inside surged in sync, the Necronomicon pulsing as if welcoming the intrusion. Outside, the pit entity calmed, but the woods filled with more Deadite howls drawn by the Time Lord showdown. The Doctor's eyes hardened with that classic Time Lord resolve, no more deals with devils. Sorry, Master, favor revoked, time for a spot of venting. He slammed a red lever on the console, rerouting power to the docking clamps and initiating an emergency purge. The TARDIS shuddered violently as the bridge between ships sealed shut from the Master's side, then whooshed open to the raw vortex beyond. Howling winds tore through the hatch, sucking cyber Deadite minions into the swirling abyss like cosmic vacuum cleaner fodder. The Master's ship yanked hard against the clamps, his enraged face filling the view screen. You wouldn't dare! But the Doctor dared. With a final twist of the controls, the clamps released in a burst of sparks, venting the Master's vessel into the time stream. It tumbled away, shrinking to a dot amid the vortex's chaos, the Master's curses fading into echoes. This isn't over, Doctor. I'll possess your precious box yet. Ash whooped, chainsaw raised. Eat Vortex, you slimy git. Clara steadied herself against the railing. Nailed it. Wait, is the infection. The risk spiraled. The backlash hit like a temporal rubber band. The sudden release sent the TARDIS spinning wildly through the vortex, pulled into the Master's wake, an eternal chase igniting as his ship stabilized and pursued, firing erratic laser blasts that scorched the outer shields. Alarms wailed. Pursuit detected. Contamination at 47%. Evacuate non-essentials. The infection, supercharged by the energy surge, erupted from the gratings, forming a writhing mass of shadows and circuits that lashed at the console, corrupting the dematerialization sequence. The book rattled in containment, its whispers syncing with the Master's distant taunts. The TARDIS, battered and spinning like a deranged top through the vortex, shuddered under the Master's pursuing blasts and the infection's corrosive grip. The Doctor wrestled the console, sweat beading on his brow. Can't shake him shields at 20%. Clara, Ash, brace for emergency landing, aiming for somewhere stable. Medieval Earth, low-profile Army of Darkness era. Wait, that's not, oh, brilliant. With a final, wheezing groan, the TARDIS materialized in a misty 13th century English castle grounds, the air thick with the scent of mud, medieval dread, and distant battle cries. The impact sent sparks flying, but what the ship held just... Alarms blared. Contamination critical. Auto-evacuation protocol engaged. The central column dimmed. The doors hissing open as the infection surged, forcing a lockdown. Outside, chaos. Skeletons clattered in the fog. Deadite remnants, or local undead. And in the distance a foreboding cemetery loomed where the master's ship had already landed, its black silhouette unmistakable. He was there, cackling amid graves, clutching not one but 3 Necronomicons, the original fleshy tome having multiplied in the time stream, their pages fluttering like possessed bats. Lost you for now, Doctor, but these beauties, mine. His ship dematerialized into the rift, vanishing toward some distant past, leaving the book's evil aura to taint the night. The Doctor, Ash, and Clara stumbled out, the TARDIS doors slamming shut behind them. No, old girl, wait. The Doctor pounded on the wood, but the ship wheezed once more and faded away, pulled by the infection into the Vortex, dematerializing toward an even more ancient era. The book's pole dragging it to the dawn of time itself. The blue box was gone, stranding them in this primitive hellscape. Ash slung his boomstick. Great, medieval deadites. And your magic bus just pieced out. What's the play, Doc? Clara shivered, spotting torchlight from approaching villagers' wise men, or deadite cultists. The ground trembled faintly, the cemetery's influence spreading. The Doctor, ever the improviser, herded the group into the shadowy undercroft of the nearby castle ruins, dank stone walls lit by flickering torchlight stolen from a passing villager's cart. No charging into that cemetery yet. The Master's books are multiplying the evil like rabbits. We purge what's left of the infection first. Low-tech ritual. Ash's powder for the kick. He rummaged through his coat for a battered psychosurgeon's probe backup sonic vibes, scavenging local herbs from the misty grounds. Wolfsbane for binding. Yarrow for cleansing. And a fistful of Ash's boomstick powder as the explosive catalyst. Ash grumbled, handing over a pouch. My shells ain't for hippie rituals, Doc. Clara kept watch at the entrance, nerves taut as distant skeletal clatters echoed from the fog. The Doctor mixed the concoction in a rusted chalice, chanting a hybrid incantation, Gallifreyan runes twisted with Sumerian echoes from memory. They formed a circle, the powder igniting in a low blue flame that danced unnaturally, drawing out the lingering deadite taint from their clothes and skin like smoke from a fire. For a tense moment it worked. The shadows writhed, then dissipated, the air clearing as the infection's grip loosened. The air purged. Now, for the books. But the ritual's instability backfired spectacularly. The blue flame surged, latching onto Ash's chainsaw arm like a magnet. He stiffened, eyes flashing yellow as deadite possession took hold, his voice warping into a guttural snarl. Hail to the king of the dead! Ash, no. The deadite knight now lunged at Clara with whirring blade, medieval armor seeming to manifest from the ether around him, rusted plate and all. The Doctor dove to restrain him, but the knight's strength was monstrous, smashing crates and sending herbs flying. Outside, the cemetery's influence amplified, more skeletons rising as if summoned by the failure. The Doctor, dodging a wild swing from Deadite Ash's chainsaw arm, snatched the chalice's remnants, the glowing blue sludge of herbs, powder, and ritual energy, and hurled it at the possessed knight. Exorciso Maximus begone, foul spirit. The mixture splattered across Ash's chest, sizzling like acid on metal, and for a glorious heartbeat it worked. Ash convulsed, the yellow glow fading from his eyes as he collapsed to his knees, gasping, "What the hell to hit me? Groovy, I'm back." But the risk exploded in overdose form. The ritual's power rebounded like a boomerang from hell, the blue flame erupting in a shockwave that surged through the undercroft. The infection, unbound and raging, leaped to the nearest hosts, the Doctor and Clara. The Doctor staggered, clutching his head as shadows coiled around his hearts. No, feel His eyes flashed yellow, a manic grin twisting his face into something sinister, Gallifreyan regeneration warping with Deadite fury. Clara screamed, tendrils wrapping her limbs, her voice splitting into whispers. Doctor, Ash, join us in the dance eternal. Now Deadite possessed, the duo turned on Ash, the Doctor's probe crackling with corrupted energy, Clara lunging with unnatural speed, her eyes gleaming with otherworldly malice. The Undercroft doors burst open as the castle stirred, villagers' torches approaching, drawn by the chaos. Ash, heart pounding like a boomstick misfire, veered off the castle path into the dense, fog-shrouded woods, gnarled oaks, and thorny brambles that felt like the forest itself was alive and pissed off. Screw the armory or the mob. I'll wait this out. TARDIS has to come back, right? That box always does. He hunkered down in a hollow behind a fallen log, chainsaw arm idling low, boomstick primed, ears straining for the TARDIS signature wheeze over the howls of his former allies. The Doctor and Clara, now twisted Deadite horrors, burst into the tree line. The Doctor's form elongated with shadowy limbs, reciting corrupted Gallifreyan spells that warped the air, while Clara phased through trees like a vengeful ghost, her laughter echoing unnaturally. Ash, join the fun, eternity awaits. But the woods bought him time. He picked them off from cover, shotgun blasts, shredding branches, and forcing retreats. Hours blurred into a night of cat and mouse, the infection seeping into the locals, villagers stumbling into the mist, eyes yellowing, turning the forest into a writhing ambush of possessed peasants and skeletal thralls rising from the undergrowth. Dawn broke with no TARDIS. The distant cemetery pulsed, the Master's 3 Necronomicons multiplying unchecked, their evil rippling through time like a plague. Ash fought on, carving a path of gore, but the whispers grew louder, the Deadites multiplying exponentially, the TARDIS lost in the distant past, perhaps at the dawn of Sumeria itself, where the book's origins festered beyond reach. In the end, Ash Williams stood alone on a hill, overlooking a darkening world, castles crumbling to Deadite hordes, the sky